Okay, folks, our topic today is demand increase in the model of perfect competition. So at this point, we've done a lot to kind of understand what the graphs look like, but we haven't really done anything with the graphs, right? We know how firms set their price, how firms set their output. We can find economic profit on the graph, but we've not done anything in terms of using the model. Today, we're actually going to use the model. So we need to start with a discussion of zero economic profits. Now, you're going to see why zero economic profits is relevant. And I know that you've watched some videos that kind of help you understand the idea of entry and exit. And it's tied to this idea of zero economic profits. But we've talked about the idea that if we have what we call supernormal profits, if we have supernormal profits, and supernormal profits is where economic profits are greater than zero. So anything that's greater than zero, then you're in a situation where you're making more than your next best alternative. You're making more than your next best alternative. So if we see an industry that has supernormal profits, then that means firms are doing well. And they're doing better than maybe firms are doing in other industries. So we know that that's going to lead to entry. But remember what we've learned about entry. Entry means that number of suppliers has gone up. And we know that if we have entry and number of suppliers goes up, then we're going to see a supply increase in the market. Right? And at this point, we all understand how to draw this. So we have entry, the number of suppliers is going to go up, which means we're going to see a supply increase in the market. So if we were looking at the market for some good and supply went up, we know exactly what that's going to do. So let's draw our market. And so if I want to increase supply, which way do I shift my supply curve, folks?
To the right.
To the right. Great. So everyone agree? I'm going to draw my supply curve shifting to the right. So I have a new supply curve S1. Well, we also know from content on test 2 what exactly is going to happen. Everyone agree that price is going to fall, right? So this causes price to decrease. Everyone agree with that? So when we have entry, it increases supply, but increases in supply cause prices to go down. Now, what kind of impact is that going to have on economic profits? So you're selling units, but now you're not selling them for as much. What's going to happen to economic profits? Then they're going to start to fall. Exactly. So this causes economic profits to decrease. And so this idea of entry creates more competition, and that makes sense, right? That it's going to cause economic profits to fall. They're being competed away. So as we've talked about, entry is going to continue until we get down to there being no economic profits. So we're basically competing away the economic profits. Now, guys, if we have economic profits equal to 0, what did we learn? Are we broke? No. So we want to make a really clear note. We want to be clear that this is not the same as saying accounting profits equal to 0, right? And by now you should understand that topic, right? So accounting profits being equal to 0 means your firm is broke, right? Accounting profits equal to 0, that's bad. Economic profits being 0, remember what that means. That simply means you're doing just as well as your opportunity cost. Right? So if I'm making $40,000 in my new business, my opportunity cost was $40,000, then I have 0 economic profits, right? But do I have 0 accounting profits? No, I don't. So we need to understand that this condition of 0 economic profits is going to be our long run equilibrium condition. That's when firms stop entering, right? There's no more economic or supernormal profits to chase anymore. So why enter? We're going to be using this idea of 0 economic profits today, but we first have to understand what it looks like graphically. Guys, I'm not going to ask you again to put your phones away. All right, so let's look at 0 economic profits graphically. So on a graph, and we're just going to look at the representative firm. Oops, price, sorry, dollars. So remember what we know. Firms are price takers, right? So they're going to adopt the market price as their own. We'll call it P0. So everyone knows where P0 comes from, right? On a graph, we know it comes from the equilibrium price in the market. Good. What do we know about the demand curve? It's going to look which way? Draw the demand curve, everyone in the air for me. Good. Horizontal demand curve. What kind of elasticity is that? Perfectly elastic. Good. We have a perfectly elastic demand curve. Good. And let's put in our marginal cost curve. Can everyone find output? Can everyone find output? All right. Everyone agree? My shortcut rule is find where marginal benefit equals marginal cost, right? Or price equals marginal cost. All right. So I've got Q star. So if we want to find economic profits, remember our equation. We need total revenue. And what do I need to subtract off? Total revenue minus total cost, right? But we have to remember this is economic profit. So when we subtract off total cost, we're subtracting both our explicit and our implicit costs. In other words, we're subtracting off economic cost. All right, everybody with me? So we're subtracting off economic cost because I want economic profit. All right, so can we find total revenue? So total revenue equals P times Q. Can we find a box that represents total revenue? Can we find that box, everyone? So do we agree that total revenue is going to have a height of P0 and it's going to have a length of Q0, right? So P times Q. So does everyone agree that total revenue is going to give me back this box right here in red? So total revenue, P times Q. All right? Now, here's what we need to think about. we know that we need next to find total cost. And I don't have a total cost curve, average total cost curve on here. We're going to add one, but here's what I want you to think about. We need total cost, which remember is average total cost times Q. We need a box that has a height of average total cost and it has a length of Q. We need that box to be exactly equal to revenue, right? So I would need these two boxes to be equal, or I won't have zero economic profits. So what I'm asking you is, given that we know for zero economic profits, we need total revenue equal to total cost, can you figure out where my average total cost curve needs to go? Can you figure out where average total cost needs to go? Should it go up here? Is that going to give me? No, well, that's going to give me what? It's going to give me a loss, right? Because my costs will be greater than my revenues. Okay, so that's not it. What about if I put it here? Does that look right? Well, if I do that, find average total cost and then create a box. Is that going to work? No. Everyone agree this is going to give me economic profits greater than zero, right? So that's not going to work. What if I put it like this? If I put it just like that, can you find average total cost? So to find average total cost, remember we go up to the relevant point, right here, and over. So average total cost equals price, right? And now I multiply it by quantity. And I get back that purple box, right? Now do I have zero economic profits? So on the graph here, we see that we have zero economic profits. How do I know that? Because we see that total revenue exactly equals total cost, where total cost is reflecting our opportunity cost. So it's an economic cost. And this can only happen if the price we're earning is exactly equal to the average total cost that we're paying per unit, right? It's the only way that happens. Is everybody with me? So this is the graph of our long-run equilibrium condition of zero economic profits. And we're going to be using that today. All right? So let's talk about the case of a demand increase. Let's talk about a demand increase. All right. So we want to look at a demand increase in perfect competition. Okay. We want to look at a demand increase. And we're going to start in our long-run equilibrium condition. And our long-run equilibrium condition, we just said, is zero economic profit. So we're going to start in our long-run zero economic profit equilibrium condition. And then we're going to let there be a demand increase in the market. So for whatever reason, maybe population grows rapidly, demand increase. Whatever we decide we like this good more than before, there's some kind of demand increase going on in an industry that's perfectly competitive. Now, we know how to draw this, right? So in the market, we're doing exactly what we've done before. We're increasing our demand curve. But what we want to do is see how the firm responds. And that's what we're going to go over. We want to see how the firm responds. And there's going to be a short run phase. And there's going to be a long run phase. So after we get through the short run phase and the long run phase, and we remember the difference, right? In the short run, some factors of production are fixed. So in the short run phase, can you build a factory in the short run? No. So you can't build a factory. So large capital investments are fixed in the short run. So guys, if you can't build a factory in the short run, then can you enter in the short run? Could you enter? Is there entry in the short run? No. So you can't enter. That's going to be an important point. Let's put a star next to that. I can't enter in the short run. I cannot buy land and build a factory in the short run because it's a period of time defined as being too short to alter everything. And clearly the thing I can't alter is my physical space and my big technological investments. But what about the long run? Can firms enter in the long run? Sure can. So remember, in the long run phase, no factors of production are fixed. No factors of production are fixed. So if in the long run, no factors of production are fixed, then we can build a factory. So it's a period that's long enough for me to be able to buy land and build a factory. So if I can buy land and build a factory in the long run, can I enter in the long run? Yeah. So we can see entry. So we need to look at the short run response to a demand increase, and we need to look at a long run response to a demand increase. But eventually, after everything settles, we're going to get back to a new long run equilibrium situation. And what did we say we know about long run equilibrium? We have what kind of economic profits? Zero. Zero economic profits. Good. So notice we're starting with zero economic profits, and there's going to be some effect of the demand increase that's going to be beneficial, right? Demand increases are good if you're in business. But by the time firms enter and compete away those benefits, we're going to get back to zero economic profits. All right? So we need to really understand this idea of entry, which we've just gone through. And that's why I went through. That's going to be an important element of what we're about to do. Okay? So you kind of understand the big picture, and then we'll illustrate it graphically. Okay. So you need to have the handout in front of you, and that will help you take clearer notes. But if you'd rather not use it, that's fine too. You can put stuff in your own notebook, whatever you prefer. All right, so what we want to do is illustrate a demand increase in perfect competition. All right, now guys, I'm going to redraw what you've got in front of you. So everyone remember industry, same thing as market. So if you don't like me calling it industry, make a note to yourself, industry, market, same thing, and a representative firm. Short run, sorry, apologize. Short run, yeah, look at the short run side. So let's put in our market. So I've already drawn that for you. Everyone see that I've already given you equilibrium price of P0 and equilibrium quantity of Q0. All right, now remind me, guys, how does the firm get their price? They take it from the market, right? So do you see that I've basically done that for you? But you should probably put in some arrows and remind yourself that the firm is a price taker, right? They're a pure price taker. They're going to take the market price as their own. So the firm has adopted that price, P0. So you might want to label P0 for the firm. And so we have our horizontal demand curve. What kind of elasticity does that give us? Perfectly elastic, right? And guys, what assumptions gave us that horizontal demand curve, right? A horizontal demand curve means I can only sell at price P0, right? I can't sell a penny higher. Why can't I sell at a penny higher than P0? Because there's what? Identical products, right? Homogeneous products and a world where information is perfect, right? Do you see how those come together? So because I'm a firm selling an identical product to everyone else, I can't sell a penny above P0. If I try to raise my price above P0, no one's buying from me because everyone else has perfect substitutes. All right. So then we've got our marginal cost curve, right? And everyone knows how to find output at this point, right? You look for the point where marginal cost equals price. That's kind of your break-even point. No more profits to be made after that. And we labeled this Q0. So remember, we're using big Q for markets and little q for firm. All right. Now, we just covered the last thing. If we're starting in zero economic profits, do I know where my average total cost curve has to be? Do I know how to draw in my average total cost curve? Right, we just covered that. I need to put in my average total cost curve so that my revenue box, can everyone find the revenue box on their graph? You don't have to shade it in, but can you just take your finger and trace it? And I need my total cost to be the same box, right? If I'm going to be in zero economic profit. So I know it's going to look like that. Okay. So does everyone agree then, let's write our first note on this worksheet, that we are starting in our long run equilibrium condition. We're starting in our long run equilibrium, LRE, long run equilibrium condition, which is zero economic profits. All right, everyone agree with that? And I know that that's zero economic profits because my total revenue box and my total cost box are exactly the same. We're starting in long run equilibrium, right? Do you agree that that graph is long run equilibrium? Does everyone agree? All right, we haven't shifted demand yet, right? So we're not in the short run, starting in our long run equilibrium. Everybody with me? Okay. So just like supply and demand, we're in equilibrium until something changes. Well, what's going to change here? We're going to have a demand increase, right? As soon as we have that demand increase, it's going to move us out of equilibrium to the short run. You know, that's why I call this the short run. We're going to put our short run work on this side. All right. So everyone understand our starting point? Zero economic profit. Do any firms want to enter right now? In this condition that I've drawn right here, is there any entry? Right. No entry is taking place. So when we call it an equilibrium, it's stable. And it's stable in the sense that nobody wants to enter. Nobody wants to enter. But now we're going to have a demand increase. So you might want to use some colored pens. So if I want to show a demand increase, guys, which way do I shift my demand curve? To the right. So draw yourself a fairly sizable demand increase. So I'm going to shift my demand to D1. And of course, we know we're now in a new equilibrium. Everyone agree that price is now P1. Everyone agree? So the demand increase has made price go up. And it's made quantity go up. So let's take some notes. After our demand increase, we see in the market that price has gone up and quantity has gone up. Everyone agree with that? But now what we want to do is figure out how firms are going to respond. So guys, if the market price goes up to P1, what's the firm going to do? They're price takers, right? So what's the firm going to do? They're a price taker, so they're going to take that new price, right? So let's remind ourselves that they're going to adopt this new price, P1. So at the firm level, we see that the firm will adopt the higher price. Now, what about my demand curve? Would my demand curve change? Okay, good. Thank you. My demand curve is going to shift up because it's not going to be at price P0 anymore. It's going to be at price P1. So our demand curve has shifted up. So our demand curve has increased to D1. Everyone agree with that? Now, what about the firm's output levels? Are they still at Q0? They're still at Q0? Well, remember, what's my shortcut rule? Find the point where the demand, the price line, the demand curve intersects the marginal cost, right? I need to find that break-even point, and that's the best I can do. So my break-even point, do you agree, is now right here where my new demand curve intersects marginal cost? Everyone with me? So we have a new output, Q1. So the firm output increases to Q1. Now, let's reflect on this for just a second because this should make sense. Look at the market. The market is producing more, right? We were producing Q0 at the market level, and now we're producing Q1. Who's going to do that production? The existing firms, right? In the short run, are new firms entering? Are new firms entering right now? No. So in the short run, new firms are not entering. So we need to remember that this increase from Q0 to Q1 has to correspond with firms producing more, right? Does that make sense? So these go together. If the market's producing more in the short run, then firms need to be producing more because remember, no new firms are entering here at this point. Right? No new firms are entering at this point. No new firms can enter. So this is only the existing firms. So guys, intuitively tell me, are the existing firms in this industry better off or worse off? Better off, right? They're getting a higher price, right? And they're selling more. So tell me then, if firms are better off in that they're getting a higher price and they're selling more, And before they were making 0 economic profits, what do you think it has to mean now? Are economic profits still 0? They have to have gone up, right? So let's write that down.
What is the first primitive keyword style?
No new firms enter at this point. Oh, sorry, that's a little small. Apologize. All right, so let's make a note. Firms are better off. Right? They see an increase in price and they see an increase in quantity. So firms are better off. They're getting a higher price and they're selling more. Everyone agree with that? So they were making economic profits that were 0. Don't you think we can use that to conclude that economic profits are now greater than 0? Right? Economic profits are now greater than 0. What do we call that? Starts with an S. Supernormal. Good. Supernormal. Supernormal profits are being made. All right. Now, let's make sure that we can find supernormal profits on our graph. So, I want everybody to take their finger and find revenue. Take their finger and find revenue. And you don't have to necessarily mess up your graph. I'll mess up mine so you can make sure that, and I'm talking about revenue at the new price, okay? So at the new price, does everyone agree we're at P1 and Q1? So my new revenue, if I'm this firm, my new revenue is this box right here in red. Everyone agree? Can you find total cost? Can you find total cost? Let's make sure we can do it with our fingers. You go from Q1 up to the average total cost curve, right? Everyone agree? You go up and you grab the relevant point and you go over, right? So average total cost is right here. So does everyone agree that that blue box is our cost box, right? So can I find my economic profits, my supernormal profits? Everyone agree our supernormal profits is going to be this rectangle right in here. So the firm is making supernormal profits. The short run's really easy. Everybody agree? So really quickly, before we move on, let's just recap what we did. We started in 0 economic profits. Firms have 0 economic profits. We see a demand increase. That demand increase increased price and increased quantity. And the firms took the new higher price and they expanded their output. Higher price, more output, they're making economic profits. This is good for them in the short run. So if I asked you a question on a test, are firms better off in the short run? What are you going to tell me? They are. Okay. So that's the short run. We're done. So now let's move on to the long run. So if you flip your page, you should have long run on the other side. All right. So I'm going to recreate what you've got in front of you. So we've got a market and a firm. So we just came out of the short run. We want to remember, in the short run, we see economic profits that are greater than 0, which are supernormal profits. So remind me, guys, can firms enter in the short run? Can firms enter in the short run? Do you think they're paying attention, though? You think they're paying attention? Yeah. Do you think that a restaurant like Applebee's or Lowe's Building supplies scoping out a location long before they enter? Yeah. So supernormal profits being made in the short run. So that's going to certainly catch the attention of new firms. Hey, there's money to be made in Farmville, Virginia. We should start checking it out. But remember, they can't enter in the short run. So we want to keep reminding ourselves of that you've got supernormal profits, and the firms get to retain those profits in the short run because firms can't enter and compete them away. But now we're going to start the long run. But to do that, I need to recreate the graphs that we've got. So again, market, firm. So to do this, I'm going to have to go through the short run again. So let's just review the short run one more time. So we started in 0 economic profit at a price P0 with firms producing Q0, right? Okay, so remember what we did. We then increased demand to D1, which made price go up to P1, which meant the market expanded to Q1, but without any new firms, right? They expanded without new firms because we're still in the short run. We said that firms would adopt the higher price P1, which gives them a new demand curve D1, right? And as a result, because the demand increased, we need more stuff produced, so firms are going to produce more stuff, right? So we went from point A, if you want to label, to point B, and we went from point A to point B in the short run. But now we want to look at the long run. This is where we're going to illustrate the long run response. So, tell me guys here, what happens in the long run? There's supernormal profits being made. What happens? What happens in the long run? Supply increases. Why does supply increase? Because firms enter, exactly. So we want to make a note that in the long run, firms enter. Why are they entering, guys? Yeah, there's money to be made. Remember, they're entering because there are supernormal profits being made. Better than opportunity cost. In other words, we can do better in this industry than our opportunity cost. So firms enter. How do I draw entry? How am I going to draw entry in my graph here? Supply increases. Good. Supply increases. So don't draw it yet. We want to have gradual entry, right? Do all firms enter the same day? No, it's kind of a gradual process. So let's let some firms enter. Maybe a couple more. So we see some entry. So do you see we're starting to go in this direction? So guys, what's happening to price? So at the market level, do we agree price is falling, right? Everyone agree with that? Supply increases make price go down. So entry is going to make prices go down. We're competing prices down. But what's happening to output? Is output going down or is output going up? So prices are going down, but output's going up. The market's growing in size. Entry makes the market grow. The market's getting bigger, right? Entry means more firms. The market's getting bigger, but competition is lowering the price. All right, so guys, how is the firm going to react to this? When price falls, what does the firm do? When price falls, what does the firm do? They're price takers, remember? So they're going to start taking this lower and lower price, right? So they're going to start decreasing their demand curve, right? So at the market level, price goes down, quantity's going up, but at the firm level, remember they adopt the lower price. If they adopt the lower price, their demand curve shifts down, right? So we're going to see a demand decrease. What happens to their output? What happens to their output here? What happens to their output? Well, how do I find output? Where the demand curve intersects the marginal cost curve. What's happening? Well, we went from B to this point right here in red, and then as demand curve shifted again. So what's happening to output? Output is decreasing, right? All right. So guys, how is the firm faring here? Let's think about it. So how is the firm impacted? So the firm sees price go down and they're producing less. What conclusion can I make about that? What's happening to economic profits? What's happening to economic profits? They're shrinking, right? Good. So economic profits are falling. So guys, what conclusion can I make here? Entry makes economic profits go down, right? Entry makes economic profits go down. So my question is, when does entry end? When will entry stop? Yeah, when we get back to the equilibrium, which is what? When all the supernormal profits are computed away, right? And we get to zero. So the answer, when does entry end? When all of the supernormal profits are computed away. In other words, we get back to zero economic profits, which is our long run equilibrium condition, right? Everybody with me? So now that I understand where we're going, I know how to draw it, right? I know exactly how to draw the situation. So what price is going to give me zero economic profits? What price? When we get back to what? P0, right? I know that P0 is my price for zero economic profits. So does everyone agree that entry is going to continue? So let's let entry continue. Am I done? Am I done with entry? Are there still supernormal profits? Yeah, because we're above price P0, right? So how do I know when entry is done? How do I know how to draw it? What should I do? I should shift my supply curve into what? To what? Underneath? Well, right now I'm sitting at this point right here. My big red dot. Is that where I'm going to end up at? Is that our long run equilibrium? No. So what do I need to keep doing? Keep shifting my supply curve until we get right here, right? Do you agree that now we're back to price P0? But we're at a new output, Q2. So do you see what happened? We went from A to B. And then we went from B, I'll call this point C, right? I started at P0, price went up, and then the market, because of entry, went back to P0. So now let's figure out, what does the firm do? So if the firm is a price taker, do you agree that they keep adopting the lower and lower price and they're lowering their output, right? Am I done? At the firm level, am I done? I need to keep shifting my demand curve until what? When do I know I'm done shifting? I get back to P0, exactly. So we get back to, put it here in purple, get back to here. And if I'm back to that demand curve, what's my output? If I'm back at price P0 and demand curve, we'll call it D0, what's my output level? Q0. So we're back, Q2 is essentially where we were. So do you agree that the firm's kind of made a loop? Let's take a look at this.
Would you say that's like DQ then?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So basically, we started at P0, we went to P1, and then back down. Does that green arrow make sense to everyone? So we had the short run. We went up to P1, but in the long run, entry competed it back down. And same thing for quantity. We started at Q0, went to Q1, and then came back. So in the short run, we expanded, but in the long run with entry, we went back. So it's a little messy to draw, right? And you're going to need to practice. And I'll post this worksheet for you so you can practice. Wait, don't pack up. We're not done. So the last thing we need to do, guys, is compare before and after our original equilibrium, we'll call that point C, and our new equilibrium. All right? So our original equilibrium and our new long run equilibrium. Let's compare. So before the demand increase, after the demand increase. So we can look at market price, market quantity. We can look at, it's not letting me draw. Ugh. It's like a dead part. Hang on a second. Let me just do this on a clean, move it over. So original long run equilibrium, new long run equilibrium. So we can look at the market price. What was the market price originally? What was the original market price, guys, before the demand increase in our original equilibrium? Everyone look at your graph. Tell me. P0. And what was the original market quantity? Q0, right? And the firm price was what? What was the firm's price? P0. And the firm demand curve was what? Demand curve was D0, right? And the firm output was what? Look at your graph, guys. What was the firm output? Q0. And what do we know about economic profit? Was equal to 0. All right, so that was our new equilibrium, our original equilibrium. What about our new equilibrium? What we ended up at? What did price end up at after the long run was done? Price is what? Look at your graph. Price is? No one knows what price is? Look at your graph. What price did we end up with at the end of the long run? We went all the way back to what price? P0. And what quantity did we end up at? Did we end up at Q0? Look at your graph. Did we end up at Q0? We didn't. We ended up at Q2. And what about the firm? Where did they end up? What price? P0. And what demand curve? Basically back to D0. And what output did they end up at? Q0. And what did economic profits end up being? Economic profits are back to 0. So what's the only thing that changed, guys? And why did the market output change? Because of entry, right? More firms. So guys, are firms better off in the short run? Are firms better off in the short run? They are. Were they better off in the long run? Is there a permanent benefit to the firms? Not at all. Short run, supernormal profits competed away by entry. All right, guys, you need to practice this. This is confusing content, so please review this.